Hi, welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation's Conversations at Home. I'm Jenelle Riley with Variety. The SAG-AFTRA Foundation has a COVID-19 relief fund to support SAG-AFTRA actors with basic needs like rent, food, and healthcare costs during this global pandemic and industry shutdown. Donations are 100% tax deductible and directly support performers in dire need. Information on how you can support this effort can be found in the description of this video. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Kenan Thompson. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. This is primarily for SAG-AFTRA actors, so I always like to start by asking, how did you get your SAG card?
Well, first of all, shout out to all my brothers and sisters out there. You know what I mean? Like SAG-AFTRA love all day long. I think I got it on the Mighty Ducks. That was like my first little kick in. They just, they were like, we got it. We got your kid. You're in the cast now, so you're going to get your card.
I mean, you started at such a young age. I'm curious, did you always know that this was going to be a lifelong career, or were you kind of just having fun when you started?
I was having super fun. I definitely wanted it to be a career. I didn't necessarily know if that was going to be the case because by the time I got to the Mighty Ducks, I had been through, hundreds, I would say, commercial auditions in Atlanta, just trying to figure out my way through and growing up in the theater and stuff like that. But I was always, focused on the performance in front of me. So I never really focused on, kind of failures and no's that I had heard, in the past or whatever. Thank God. I don't know why I never, overly judged myself, but maybe because I was so young and there was so much going on just being a kid, like I wanted to be athletic or hang out with my buddies or whatever it was. So like the fact that I didn't get some like Publix commercial didn't really make me that upset because I did wind up in a Publix commercial eventually. So you just got to keep trying.
Really? You graduated to that after a few months.
Exactly. I was changing the tire as a Publix person because even the cashiers will do whatever you need here at Publix.
We don't have Publix out here. What is it? Is it food?
Oh, Publix. Yeah, it's a grocery store. Sorry. Oh. Yeah, it's like a huge grocery store in Florida for sure.
Yeah, because I've been to Florida and Atlanta, and I think under it, but then I wanted to make sure. You are an Emmy nominee this year. You're actually a 4-time Emmy nominee. You won for the song "Comeback Barack,"
Incredible.
Which was so amazing. And this year you are nominated in the very competitive and lovely supporting actor in a comedy category. It was such a fantastic season. I mean, between the quarantine episodes and the Eddie Murphy episode, what was your personal highlight?
Oh, thank you so much. Definitely the Eddie Murphy episode. That was just a childhood dream come true, probably for everybody involved that week. Everybody could feel the pressure because he'd been away for so long, but he'd also kind of been out of the limelight for so long as well, So it was a big, big kind of triumphant return for him. Similar to when Dave Chappelle hosted. He had been gone for a while and was kind of tiptoeing back into the world with, an appearance here or an appearance there. But Eddie was just like Mr. Movie Man. So you would only see him in movies, or if he happened to pop up at a basketball game or something. You never really see him doing a lot of guest appearances on this or you know what I mean? And so it was very, rare to be in the presence of Eddie, especially in Studio 8H, which has been, what was it, like 30 years, something like that. It was just incredible to be a fly on the wall that week, So yeah, that was definitely a highlight for sure. The quarantine episodes, it was very touching because, it was awesome to see us all come together like that. And then I felt like they each got better each week. So I enjoyed that. And then the topper was that dream sketch because everything was such a mystery and we all were dispersed and we didn't know, how New York City was going to continue or if it would ever or whatever. And there was just so much unknown and so much sudden, this has been snatched away from us type of a feeling, and everybody, like when I was watching it with my wife, she was crying, it was like a real touching moment. And leave it up to Cecily, Cecily, and shout out to Kent Sublette who wrote it with her, but leave it up to her to come up with something so touching and brilliant.
You mentioned being a fly on the wall when Eddie Murphy was there, but you weren't a fly on the wall. You got to stand on stage with him and Dave Chappelle and during this monologue, and I saw you
Yeah.
tweet about it, and you said, thank you for thinking that I belonged up there, which was crazy to me because you're an icon like them as well.
I mean, I appreciate that. I've never been big on, self-praise or promotion. So it's something I have to get, better used to. Because I guess I'm just such a big fan of everybody else. You know what I mean? That it's rare that I turn the mirror on myself and it's like, you do a fantastic, Bill Cosby impression, or you do some great work here and there. It's like, I don't know, it kind of freaks me out a little bit. So that it just, it feels good to, I don't know, like to me, it feels good to be humble, you know what I'm saying? And to be recognized for being, a regular person that has big dreams like anybody else, cause I would want to root for a person like that. So, yeah.
But you're not only working with Eddie Murphy, you're doing Black Jeopardy, and he's bringing back Velvet Jones. I mean, you had to be a part of it that was freaking out, right?
Oh man, I was freaking out from the announcement over the summer, and it was just like, I don't know how we passed the time without freaking out every single day, because I've just been, for my lifetime, Eddie Murphy has just been ingrained in my existence, from my father to my entire family to, everybody else that celebrates, his brilliance. But it was just like, I knew after Adam Sandler did it, he was probably going to do it, but I didn't know exactly when though. And then they announced it like probably for a month or so after Adam did it. And I was like, wow, like Lauren doesn't sleep. You know what I mean? He's just a super gangster with his business and, his spot on eye for what would make a hot show. I mean, he's been doing it for 45 years, even in the years that he wasn't there, I'm sure he was making phone calls every single day. But yeah, and then all of a sudden, as time does, here comes the Christmas show, it's just an inevitability. And I'm just in front of my icon for 6 days. It was incredible.
What makes a good host? Because I have to say, I was so impressed with JJ Watt. I didn't know who he was. And then
he's the best.
Yeah, and you guys did that pizza delivery sketch that, yeah. I mean, you're great, but he's brilliant in it.
He's great. I think that's probably one of the main reasons why they asked him to host the show, because he has one of those personalities and he's an outgoing, willing to make fun of himself type of guy. And those are the kinds of people that we need in host positions, kind of let the coolness go and let's run with this funny. So yeah, shout out to JJ. He was awesome. And, he texted me after the show that night and he was just like, it was so nice meeting you, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. You just hosted SNL. Like, why are you hitting me up? But he's that guy. So yeah, since then, we've gone back and forth. He got married and I congratulated him on that. And, he's a real one. That's what we call him. When real ones come around, they act and, people react to them. So yeah, he's been incredible.
You've been on the show a long time. You're the longest running cast member. You've been there since 2003. You probably in that time, just the odds are that maybe a host has come along who wasn't great. I mean, what do you do when that happens?
I mean, my heart always goes out to them, because it's a stressful week, man. Like it's a hurricane for people that get to experience it week after week after week. So let alone you're trying to take it all in just the 6 days, and really it's kind of like 4-ish real whole, like maybe 5, because Monday is such a quick little thing. We just do the pitch meeting and then we're kind of out of there. And Tuesday is when the writing starts. But, the host doesn't really have to do anything except the promos. And then they can walk around, and hear everybody's ideas if they want to. But if they're not really into it, that could be a short day. So Wednesday is like the table read day, kind of when everything starts. So if you're a fish out of water that's super out of water, it's still only a 4-day experience, but it's also terrifying because that water very well. Who swam there, who's come out of there, who's done this and that and the other in that water. And now you're in it and you're in the most pristine position, the host. You know, you are going out to America to present this thing as the ringleader, you know, and that is a lot of stress. So if you're just not having a good time, or you don't really get how things work, you know, my heart goes out to people like that, because I remember my first week there and I was terrified, but I could hide in the background because I'm in a cast with 15 other, you know, people that are running the comedy business right now. You name it. Jimmy Fallon, Tina Fey, Maya, Amy, Rachel, Horatio, Will Forte, Fred Armisen, like, you know, take your pick. Like, there's no reason for me to be thrust into the spotlight. So I could kind of hang back and figure this out a little bit. But for the host, that is not the case. So yeah, if they're not getting it, I try to do my part and, you know, explain some things or make them feel a little more comfortable or offer them whatever I can. But if they're still not getting it, it's, you know, it's going to be a tough week on them, and that'll be their story, unfortunately.
So is the best advice you can give to a potential host just to have fun with it?
I mean, that's a large part of it, but also, you know, be present and stay on the cards, because everything changes at the last minute, you know. But like, also have an awareness of what should be on the cards at the same time. So if something might be missing, or, you know, they might not pull the card fast enough, or they pull 2 cards and now you're ahead, you know, you kind of have to be aware of what's supposed to be happening in every single sketch. It's a big, big burden, which is, you know, why it usually goes to people that are having a big moment in their career. You know what I mean? They built up this kind of professionalism, you know, kind of belief that they can handle these kind of situations. So they get passed around to every single big prime time opportunity, because now you've proven yourself to be a professional entertainer. We can count on you to, you know, make sure that the outcome of this experience is going to be a positive one, right? Whether it's the Tonight Show or it's the Today Show, you know what I mean? And then you get into, you know, your movie's doing well, your TV show's doing well, and it's an SNL opportunity. So, or, you know, you're an awesome, like, music person that can do both, like Harry Styles.
Yeah. Or Chance the Rapper, who has hosted.
Or Chance the Rapper, for sure. Captain Independence, absolutely.
The
shout out to, I've been nominated for 2 Emmys with that guy, and we won the one together.
The spooky song that you guys did this season in the graveyard is one of my favorite sketches ever.
Oh, man.
I just love that he was up for that.
His shows are always so much fun, because he's up for, but can also do anything. Like, he could totally be in the cast with, you know, with his eyes closed. And, you know, the fact that he committed to my silly, like, wolf dance choreographer sketch guy. You know what I mean? Like, he's just down to commit to everything, I guess, because A, you know, he's such a great, cool, loving dude, but B, we're all having a good time.
Yeah. I know it wasn't this most recent season, but when you did the Celebrity Family Feud and he realized he was Steve Harvey's son.
That was his idea.
You're kidding!
That was his idea. He's brilliant. Give Chance the Rapper his flowers. He's brilliant. He's brilliant.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I've actually been to a taping, and it is fascinating. First of all, how small that stage is. I thought it was huge.
Welcome to New York. Everything is much, much tighter. But I thought the same thing. I was just like, this is where they've been pumping out this legacy from. And yeah, it's, the studio is small, but, you know, the spread out amongst that building is large, you know, and you don't get to see much of that. But it's really cool how they do a lot in a small amount of space. And then the other cool thing is that our big brother Seth got to move next door, you know, and he's been there for years now. And it's just like, we have a very contained family floor. You know, our entire floor is all family. So when I get to that 8th floor, I feel very comfortable.
He's literally down the hall. That's so cool.
Yeah. Next studio over. We use his studio all the time. It's awesome.
Yeah, I was surprised, first of all, how quickly they assemble those sets.
Oh yeah. Shout out to our crew, man. They take risks, and they have a crazy crane driving through the studio at the same time. So they do an amazing choreography, like getting those walls up and carpets up and set decorated. And lit all within like the 3 or 4 minute commercial window. It's pretty impressive. It's a beautiful dance to see. I think that's what a lot of audience people take away from seeing it live is that part of it, like how they spin shit and get shit in and out of there, and they're running with giant carpets down the thing. You know what I mean? They make the Oval Office disappear. You know, they put it together and they make it disappear, because I seen the warm up with no background. You know, and that's before the show goes on, and then there's 4 minutes maybe until the show goes on. So they put together the entire Oval Office after that, you know, and then they get rid of it by the time the monologue happens. It is a lot going on in just those first two things.
The other thing that really impressed me, I actually went to the dress rehearsal the night I was there. It was the Russell Crowe episode from a couple years ago.
Oh, nice. Yeah. He's so fun.
He was really funny. And there were some great sketches that got cut, because I went home and watched it and I was like, oh, that sketch didn't make the air. How do you sort of deal with that? I mean, I know it's part of the game, but it must be tough to work so hard on something.
There's lots of crying. I would say there's lots of just self-affirmation in the mirror, like you are good enough. No, I'm just kidding. You just, it stings, but you get over it. And Lauren is quick to kind of let you know that there's always going to be another show, or don't worry about it. Hopefully, after you've been there for a while, it's like, this will not be your only opportunity to get it right, even though you missed it on this one. Like, he's never going to let you not feel it, but he won't let you feel it for too long, because, in your hits and misses, you always got to start back over on Monday for another host. So. Yeah.
Is there anything that you've been trying to get on the air for a while, and for whatever reason it just keeps getting cut, or they've told you to stop pitching it?
There was this one that we ended up finally getting on with Kevin Hart, that I think we started with trying to get it on with Bruno Mars. It was called Active Jack. And it was like this, it's like, kids exercise, like morning show, basically, to get kids moving. And it's this guy, Active Jack, kind of like a Jack LaLanne type of dude. And it was the 50th anniversary. So it starts with this whole theme song of him trying to work out with the kids. And then we snap to, like, now we got, a special treat for you, the 50th anniversary reunion DVD special airing now. And then it's me 50 years later, like all out of shape and gray haired, singing the same song, just much slower and much more tired. And it was, it went really well, but it got cut for whatever reason. And then years later, we were able to do it with Kevin Hart. So shout out to Kevin, man. Shout out to Bruno too, because he crushed it. He did his thing.
That's one of the things that I really took away, is that a sketch can be great and it can work, but it can't always make the air for whatever reason.
For whatever reason. I mean, it's the same thing with like the Lobster Diner. That didn't even get past the table when we first read it, years and years, when, John was a writer on the show, and then he came back as a host, and it just seemed to make sense for whatever reason. So, and it made the most sense, because that was probably one of the most impressive sketches I've ever been involved with.
That I had no idea that he'd been pitching that for a while.
We read it at the table, and it got cut. Yeah, I totally remember that, because I just wasn't as versed in Broadway musicals as I would have loved to have been by the point I got on the show, and I hadn't seen Les Mis, so I remember going into music rehearsal and being like completely lost. Yeah, I hadn't seen Les Mis, I hadn't seen Miss Saigon, or any of the classics. Basically, I've seen like Ragtime, and that's about it.
I love Ragtime. That's my all-time favorite musical.
It's incredible. It's great music. But yeah, I hadn't seen like Cats or anything like that. I saw like Tommy and Ragtime, and neither one of those were up for discussion that week, so it wasn't helping me. And I just remember being in that music rehearsal, like kind of lost, and that's what kind of set in my mind about that week. And then when we brought it back, I was like, did we do this like years ago? And I was like, oh yeah, what happened? It's like, it didn't make it past the table. It's like, really? So I was nervous about reading it again, but it went really well. And it was like getting crazy laughs. And then we did it, and it just felt special. That entire week felt special. I had probably one of my hardest laughs with my buddy 80 about it, because during dress rehearsal, of course, the laws of nature would be the opening for the ginormous lobster tank is this big. So the tank is, of course, this big. You know what I mean? It's like, just make a bigger opening and we won't have any problems. But I know whenever they have something heavy on wheels, it's those turning wheels. So when you push it forward or you push it back, you have to turn the wheels to get it to go back forward without it like shifting side to side or something. So of course, when it was time to push forward, it shifted a little to the side and I ran right into the side of the wall. And my music is starting and I have like 5 seconds before I have to start singing and I'm not even visible yet. And I'm like, you guys got it, just squeeze it. And then the lights on and I have to like poke my head over, this is dress rehearsal, thank God. But I have to like poke my head over the tank to say my first line, which is, who am I? And Adi and I were dying laughing about that because it was like, we would love to know, sir. Number one, you're dressed as an old ass lobster. And like, what the fuck is happening? Like, this was a diner 2 seconds ago. And now there's this like singing lobster tank coming out. It was crazy. So yeah, that was a good one.
Probably have trouble getting balance because you're wearing lobster claws. You can't really.
Yeah, I can't do anything. It's a tank up to my chest. And I basically am at the mercy of trying to get this ginormous platform through this small ass opening. It was incredibly funny.
I always wonder about pitching things that they might be a hard sell in the room, or maybe they're not. You brought back What's Up with That this season, and it's one of my favorite sketches. But I just wonder how you pitch that in the room. It's like, Jason Sudeikis is going to be doing the Running Man. I'm never gonna get to the guests.
Yeah, I don't think I actually pitched it in the pitch meeting. Thank God I just went to Brian and was like, I think I have an idea for a talk show where I don't let people talk. Like I just kind of keep singing theme song like over and over and over and over and over again. And that's kind of where it started. And then he started adding elements. And then, you kind of write these descriptions just as a funny thing in the background for us to read at the table, but you don't really know what it's going to look like. So he wrote in like Jason Sudeikis in a tracksuit, like doing a funny dance, or Fred Armisen looking like Kenny G kind of on the saxophone. These are just like things that were not even like almost read out loud, basically, damn near. But in rehearsal, everybody took to grabbing on to a character because they're professionals, you know what I mean? And if they're going to be on, they're going to be on doing something awesome. And that's what that was. They're so gifted and so giving and, willing to give to other people's sketches that I've always have just tried to keep that ensemble mentality going, because it was shown to me.
I heard, I feel like I read in an article a couple years ago that sometimes their writers will just sort of say, Kenan does something funny in the scripts and like throw it to you.
Yeah, my reactions have been known to attract a laugh or two every now and again. And yeah, it started to be a little bit of a crutch, I guess. But that's a nice crutch, to have built up, if you can just count on going to me and I give you one of these.
Even now that makes me laugh.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the Zoom episodes because they were so well done, and it kind of reminds me of the expression necessity is the mother of all invention. When you first heard that they were going to do this, what was sort of your reaction, and were you surprised by how great they turned out?
I mean, I knew we were going to have to do something because we was in the middle. We had like 5 or so shows left, maybe 6, according to our, pre-planned schedule or whatever. So I'm like, they're not just going to like can 6 episodes, are they? And like nobody's really knowing how long this is going to last, but it definitely looks like, we're going to be quarantining or trying to like be shut down for more time than we have, to do those 6 episodes. So I'm like, I don't think we're just going to scrap them. And then at the last minute, they're like, all right, we're going to do it. We're going to do a Zoom version, blah, blah. And we had already, I'd done Zoom meetings before. So I was like, yeah, I figured they were going to figure out something. And it was new territory for me because I don't really shoot at home much. I usually just save that for, professional productions or whatever and keep my home life kind of like my oasis. But it was interesting to kind of figure out, how can I be funny at home? Like, do I have wigs or do I have outfits or blah, blah, blah. And the first one, luckily, everybody kind of wrote stuff that I could kind of do with what I had. Like I made a cape out of a blanket type little things that was like, nobody's trying to be impressed for this first one. And then the second one, we got more into the groove. They started sending us props and green screens and things like that. What's up with that? Wigs, and we just had more time for the mail, I guess, to catch up with our ideas. And, the third one stepped up even further. So it was definitely an interesting experience. It was a lot of work, but it was definitely satisfying because of the response from people. Everybody was just like, thank you so much for doing that. So, yeah.
Honestly, the sketch where you play a preacher trying to have a congregation over Zoom felt like something that could have been in any episode. It was so dead on.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, the shout out. And that was another thing about doing it, was being able to witness how great our writers are and how wonderful our team, like, collectively really is once we come together to lift this writing up off the page, in whether it's, props or, makeup or hair or the cast, when we all come together to like perform, it's really incredible. And it just reminded us that these writers are giving us the reason to do this. They keep coming up with funny ass scenarios, funny ass situations, things that are insanely poignant, topical, whatever it is. And it's our pleasure to try to pull it off. And, if it sucks, it's not going to make the show. But if it's great, it could wind up being like the sketch that Adie and Kate did about the grocery store ladies. You know what I mean? Like, that shit is just, it's insanely funny that they're still coming up with new ideas so late. I mean, people say that about me, that I can't believe you're coming up with great ideas so late in the game. Like, you've been there for so long. But that's what that show is. It changes every single week. There is no just laying back and being like, oh, I had a great show, 6 episodes ago, so just eat that. We got to like go out there and earn it, every single joke. So, yeah.
Am I mistaken, or there's talks about you guys going back to work in September and doing shows in the studio?
Yeah, we're going back. I think we're definitely going back. It's an election year, and no, we're going to figure it out. I think everybody's figured out ways. I'm looking at basketball in the bubble right now, so there's ways to get it done, I think.
The only thing, if Trump is defeated in the next election, the only downside is I don't know if we'll be able to see more of them Trumps.
I know, but them Trumps, yeah, you might be able to see more because people won't be so off-put by it because all the weirdness will be gone.
Perfect. If you can
I was
promise
thinking that. I thought you were going to say like Alec Baldwin was going to be off. I was like, yeah, I'm going to kind of miss that dude. I love that dude.
He's great, but them Trumps is fantastic.
I'm so happy that you love them Trumps. That is making my day right now.
Them Trumps.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, Brian Tucker, once again, man, he's so good.
I should mention that you've branched out into some other mediums. I know you launched the podcast You Already Know, and your show Kenan was picked up. What can you tell us about these, and how are you going to do all these jobs at once?
Well, podcasting is, something that you can kind of just take around with you in your backpack. So thankfully I'll be able to do that kind of anywhere. But my show, it's going to be interesting. They want me to go to SNL and focus on that until after the elections, and then I'll start shooting. So the back and forth, I don't really know how that's going to work necessarily, but I'm excited, and I think we're putting together a great cast with Don Johnson now being my father-in-law, and Chris Redd is going to be my brother. And we have Kimry Lewis from Single Parents. She's going to be playing like my producer on the show. And, there's rumors of other comics being added. So it's going to be very comedian heavy as a cast, which I think is kind of, it's kind of critical, because I'm not really the one to be like, hey, look at me for 22 minutes. I would much rather like look at this entire experience of all of these people coming together and being funny for whatever reason. So I'm excited about that aspect of it.
Will they at least shoot in the same building to give you some reprieve?
They're not even shooting in the same state, but we will figure it out. They're not even in the same time zone, but it'll all get worked out. One shooting in LA, which will be my sitcom, and SNL is always in New York.
Wow, and you'll be going back and forth, or you haven't thought that far ahead?
I don't know exactly what I'll be able to do, based on state, legalities with quarantining and stuff like that. So they'll have to figure that out. Yeah.
Forgot about the quarantine for a second.
I know. I mean, hopefully, we'll start figuring out ways that the testing will be much more rapid and things like that. So it'll be, easier to stay on top of my current infection situation, which I'm negative now. Happy to say. Thank you. Thank you very much. But yeah, it's definitely going to be an uphill battle, but worth it.
Speaking of, I just always like to ask people before we go, you've actually been working during the quarantine, which is nice, but what else have you been doing to stay creative? Are there books you're reading or shows you're watching, things you're catching up on?
Yeah, but I mean, between the podcast, you already know, it's been an incredible experience doing that because I think it's going to lead to other podcasts coming up under it. And that's been like, kind of our master plan with that whole venture. But also just being home with the babies has been keeping me very busy every single day, sleeping. They sleep with us. So yeah, it's been a very busy bedtime. Lots of kicks in the middle of the night and things like that. But besides that, like, catching up on some good shows, rewatching some good shows, and I don't know, just kind of like keeping my eye on the pulse of what's going on out there in the world and what's going on, in our basically daily lives here in America as well. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot coming up. So there's a lot to keep you busy for sure. But there's also great work being done. And there's also, I think, great gestures of people trying to give more light to maybe underserved voices. So that's cool.
Well, I want to congratulate you again on a great season, really a great 17 years.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
On behalf of the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, we want to thank you for joining us and sharing your experiences, process, and craft with your fellow performing artists. Thank you again so much for being here.
Thank you. I mean, I don't know exactly how much craft I did, but, hopefully there's something in there that you could take away. I have a habit of mumbling for a while. So no, it's been my pleasure. And, our community, I love the way we support each other and, let's continue to do so. And I'm just, like I said, honored to be in the same category as my esteemed other nominees, and shout out to them. And I hope we all win one together. That would be ideal.
That'd be amazing. Like a 7-way tie.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I was like, I'll take it. I will take it. We all get one, right? So let's just get one.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.